And welcome to Fairlane Southway in Houston, Texas for the championship round finals of the $35,000 Lady Fairlanes Open. Hi, everybody. I'm Denny Schreiner, and welcome to Houston, Texas. And normally, Leila Wagner would be standing next to me here this evening, but after the big victory in DeSoto last week, she's opted to stay home in Annapolis and get some rest and get prepared for next week's tournament in Tempe. Standing front and center, though, is former U.S. Open champion Karen Ellingsworth. And Karen, every bowler dreams of bowling a championship match on the best pair of lanes in the house, and that's what's going to happen here this evening on 15 and 16.
Exactly, Denny. 15 and 16 here at Fairlane Southway is by far the best pair in the house. We've seen high scores all week. I think we're going to see them tonight.
The ladies averaged a whopping 235 composite on this pair, so we might see some X's here this evening. Now, let's go to the statistics at the top for Nikki Gianulias. 14 times she's bowled from the top seat position. She has won only 3 times. What's the problem?
Well, the problem is she's not winning the matches when she has to. She's missed a couple easy spares in a couple of the matches, but basically she's bowled well. She hasn't got the breaks. She may have to change her strategy.
All right, Karen, are we stretching things to suggest possibly if Cheryl Daniels or Lisa Wagner would win here tonight with 2 tournaments left, Tempe and Samstown, that they would still have a shot at catching Robin Romeo for Bowler of the Year?
I don't think you're stretching at all. I think if Cheryl Daniels were to win here and go on to Samstown, that would give her 6 titles. And Samstown is the big money. Cheryl's always bowled well there. Lisa Wagner, with a win here and a win at Samstown, would go over the $100,000 mark for the 2nd year in a row. She would be in the running.
Should be an interesting telecast this evening. Lisa Wagner is the defending champion. Will she make it to the title game? Only time will tell. Coming up, the opening match, though, between Michelle Mullen and Jeannie Maiden, the LPBT on ESPN. Coming up next. Welcome back, everyone, to Fairlane Southway in Houston, Texas for the opening match of the championship round in the $35,000 Lady Fairlanes Open. Jeannie Maiden, with her 2nd consecutive appearance in the championship round, I should say, will start on lane 15. Championship pair, 15 and 16, and an excellent pair of lanes throughout the week.
It has been a very high-scoring pair. The carry has been excellent on the pocket shots. That, of course, will make the scores higher.
Of course, what a difference a day makes in condition. Lanes appear to be a little tighter in practice than they were last night as we watched the first shot slide by on 15, and she leads the 2-4-5.
Well, we're bowling in a short oil condition this week, and the conditioner right now is in the first 23 feet of the lane, causing the ball to skid very sharply in the front of the lane, but then maybe sometimes an overreaction in the back. They're trying to stop that right now, and Jeannie leading the 2-4-5 in her first shot.
The lanes right now as they would be probably in the 1st or 2nd game of qualifying or the 1st or 2nd game of match play each morning block, which means they're a little tricky to start. And a nice fair conversion for Jeannie.
She went cross lane on that, and the ball will hold when going across the lane at either corner. It will go very straight. The player must go very direct.
One of the rising young stars on the LPBT Tour, 25-year-old Michelle Mullen out of Matson, Illinois, finishing 2nd in this year's U.S. Open. Outstanding player, very aggressive, doesn't waste any time, and likes to play the track shot.
She likes to play a very tight line. She has a very heavy rolling ball. We'll see from the side, a very strong player. She has a very basic game. She pushes the ball out right in front of her, a little bit late through there, but she has great power through the release point. You can see her ball coming. Look at the position of the wrist right there, and she comes straight up the back of the ball.
Trying to open up quickly with a double and 2 very crisp professional shots, and Michelle Mullen jumps off to an early 10-pin lead.
Of course, we saw Jeannie Maiden last week have all kinds of problems in the first match, getting a good feel on the ball. Told me, Karen, today I'm just going to try to go out and I'm going to try to bowl my natural style. I'm not going to try to make too many physical adjustments. I want to get comfortable.
We developed the story last week. She has a very sore right hand. Told me that she's going to take off Tempe next week just to give it some rest. Tries to angle it into the pocket, and up high it goes, and a split in the 2nd frame for Jeannie Maiden.
And that was the over-under adjustment. She went light on the last shot. She adjusted, and the ball going high. She's just getting a little too much reaction. If she moves out, it's hooking a little too much. She moves in, it's going a little too straight. She's making very small adjustments. And you can see what we're talking right there, 245 average on this pair throughout the week.
Awesome numbers when you really think about it. doesn't compare to Michelle Mullen's average of 262 on this pair, but the other three qualifiers were much lower than those two.
Let's get a good look at Jeannie's style from the side. Very high push away, above shoulder length. A little unusual, but the great footwork of Jeannie Maiden has kept her a sound player. Look at how solid she is at the line. Not a real strong release, but a good extension from the high backswing.
Trails by 24 in the very early stages of match number 1. She'd like to get something started here very quickly. Tries to tug it inside, and another bad break as it's split number 2, this time on the left-hand lane.
Very unusual split. We haven't seen this a lot during the week. She tried to go a little direct, the ball just snapping in front of the pocket, cutting through. She's coming very straight, right off the corner, right there, just diving a bit high, leaving the 4.79.
She's got a shot at this, though, right?
It's very difficult to get the ball to hook when going across the lane, but yes, she does have a shot. She's going to have to really point it across the lane.
I think the key phrase there was point the ball because it won't react. And so a pair of opens back-to-back. The door swings wide open. Michelle Mullen leads by 35, and that will loosen up your arm swing.
It sure will. I think Michelle right here knows this is the time to jump on it. She gets up, throws two more strikes in the 3rd and 4th. She pretty much has this match well in hand before the 5th frame.
Set that one down a little short. You could see the ball hooking early, and she leaves the baby split.
She looked like she got a little quick with her feet that time, getting the ball, losing the ball early, and of course tugging a little bit right through the nose.
Strategy for the baby split, Karen?
The ball's going to go very straight across the lane, and she has switched to a harder surface ball. She's going to have all skid here, so she wants to just hit what she's looking at and go between the 2 pins. It will skid into the 10 off the 3.
Well, that one went into a bit of a roll, and so she takes the 3 off the 10, and Jeannie Maiden, with a reprieve of sorts, realizes that she's back into this one, now trailing by just 21.
She threw the spare shot just a little too slow. She knew that there was a lot of oil going across the lane.
Good speed and an excellent shot, so Michelle Mullen comes right back and strikes in the 4th. And we'll take a break here in the early stages of match number 1. It's Mullen by 21 when we return to Fairlane Southway in Houston, Texas. Now, I know we're going to have some people throughout the country that want to vote, obviously, on this question this week. Our new number is 1-900-990-ESPN. 85% of all bowling lanes have short oil. Do you agree with having short oil? Yes, no, or it doesn't make any difference. I'm sure everybody will have an opinion one way or another. 95 cents per minute. Every 20th caller receives a beautiful 10th anniversary poster from ESPN. And Karen, I know you throughout the years have expressed your opinion on lane conditioning. What would you go for, short or long oil?
I definitely think long oil is the way to go. I'm going to jump out and make my statement, but I think long oil is a lot fairer condition overall.
Okay. Jeannie Maiden battling with a condition on the championship round pair, and she comes up with her first strike in the 4th. If she doubles, she cuts the lead to just 11.
Yes, that was an excellent shot, Jeannie. She had time to sit down and compose herself, and she got up and threw a great shot.
When you take a look at what a player can get away with, and when I say that, if you're allowed to throw the ball a little to the right and get a reaction or tug it a little bit, it would appear this week that if you throw the ball a little too far to the right, you've got some problems.
You definitely want to make most of your area to the left. That seems to be on short oil where the area usually is. You get overreaction out to the right, or you get a hang spot where the ball just won't come back.
Tries to increase the speed in her 3rd split in 5 frames, and Jeannie Maiden has been a bit unlucky here this evening not to break up at least one of those.
It's tough when you're going through the nose and you just can't break it out. It's not a good shot. And again, she just got too direct. Right there, the ball flipping over, going right through the nose. She has some pins over flying around, but she just couldn't take out the 10.
She's already left the 4.710, the 4.79, and now it's back to a repeat of the 4.710. So Jeannie has seen enough of the corner pins, gives it a run, and the crowd appreciative of the effort on the split conversion, but 61 in the 5th. That's not going to get it here in game number 1.
At this point, Jeannie Maiden has got to be very frustrated. This is 2 appearances in a row where she just hasn't been able to get things going at all.
Michelle working on a strike now in the 5th. And she swishes the rack on lane 16 and now bolts to a 45-pin lead at the halfway mark.
The powerful release of Michelle Mullen comes through on this shot. You can see this ball, although it does not hook a lot, right here it has all the power saved up, just cutting through, blowing the 5-pin and taking out the other pins.
Michelle, another one of the collegiate players, doing very well on the LPBT tour, spent 4 years at the University of Illinois. And that one's a little high and through the nose. A pair of doubles, though.
Michelle, when she first came out on tour, everyone knew she had a great hand. She had a great release, and it was just a matter of time before she learned how to master different conditions and become consistent throughout the week, and she has done that this year, finishing 2nd in the U.S. Open, which Robin Romeo won. That's a great start of a career.
Tremendous pressure in that event. It's the biggest of the year, and en route to getting to the championship game, she defeated Jeannie Maiden 194 to 192 in a very close match.
She really stayed composed during that finals. It just shows what a great player she is and she will become. She has a lot of years ahead of her.
Well, there's still life. A possible game of 211 if Jeannie Maiden would shift into high gear here, but she better get it done in a hurry.
She has to start right now. She did throw a good shot on this lane. She looks a little more comfortable here than on lane 15.
Tries to tug it up, needs a little bit of a kick and doesn't get it as she leaves the 4-pin. And you can see Jeannie scratching her head. She's just in that in-between zone where she can't go a board or 2 to the right. The ball won't get to the pocket if she sets it a little short of hooks early.
Yes, there is no area to the right now for Jeannie Maiden, but her ball is on a very tight line. But right in front of the pins, she has no carry down, so the ball is just snapping through the nose.
So a lot of times when you feel like you've made a pretty good adjustment and a good solid shot, the ball just overreacts in the last 3 or 4 feet and you end up with a split.
Well, if Jeannie could hang around for 3 or 4 more games, she might get the carry down, and that same shot might set up in the pocket. But right now, she just has too much ball reaction in the last 10 feet of the lane.
In order to be successful on the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour, you have to win in the championship round, and you have to bowl well. And Jeannie's average thus far this year, 176.1. Her career average is 205, so you can see that's why she has yet to win a match this year.
This year has really been a struggle for Jeannie on television. She's done the footwork to get here during the 42 games of match play, but then when she has, she just hasn't been able to put it together during her one game.
Finishing touches there. You see the disappointment on her face. Threw an excellent shot and leaves the 4-9.
Again, Jeannie Maiden from behind. You can see the high push away goes into a high backswing, but the extension is there. And again, right here, the ball is snapping. You can just see it flip over and leaving the same 4-9 split.
Well, splits are fine if you're into ice cream, Karen Ellingsworth, but they don't work on the LPBT Tour. A commanding lead for Michelle Mullen when we come back to Fairlane Southway in Houston, Texas. $7,000 and a beautiful piece of crystal for first place this week in the Lady Fairlanes Open.
It's a beautiful trophy. It's a little unusual. It's kind of nice to have something that not everyone else has.
Fairlanes has done a marvelous job of sponsoring the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour. Very actively involved.
They're not only involved on the national level, they're also involved on the regional level, which helps out local bowlers get started into Ladies Pro Bowlers.
10-pin wiggles but won't fall, and if you were to ask Michelle Mullen what she thought of that shot, she'd have said, hey, I'll take 9 and out, no problem. And meanwhile, Jeannie Maiden in a trance, as it were, she's just not been able to solve the puzzle of bowling in the championship round this year.
Well, she's taking next week off. Maybe she'll have time to go home and think about it and come out Samstown refreshed.
Sure, you come out and bowl well in that last event of the year, and kind of sets up 1990 rather nicely. A spare in the 7th for Michelle Mullen, who, if she wins, will take on a red-hot player on the LPBT Tour in Cheryl Daniels. Cheryl has already won 4 titles this year. Lisa Wagner has qualified number 2, and Nikki Gianulias number 1 this week in Houston.
I talked to Michelle, and she's changed her span in Rockford 2 weeks ago. She's dropped her ring finger, and she says she feels the ball a lot more evenly on her hand. And that ball just skating by, you could see she sent it to the right, and it was not coming back. She left herself with a near impossible 2-4-8-10.
Almost better off to shoot that one left-handed.
You are. There's a lot of men who give it an attempt that way.
Sure.
The only other way is to try to hook the ball as much as you can, but I don't think there's a lot of chance of that on this condition right now.
So she goes for the count, and that's the right decision at this stage. Still a possible 208 for Michelle Mullen, and the best that Jeannie could put together would be 178.
We did mention during the opening that this was a high-scoring pair, but it was a high-scoring pair later in the day. The first 3 or 4 games every morning, the lanes were a little bit squirrely, which we say a little difficult to bowl on.
Well, this is the point that we're making right there. That ball she threw almost exactly as she did in the 6th frame, but watch the hold here. Watch the ball as it enters the pocket.
She doesn't get the last-minute flip. It just holds right in the pocket, and the carry down may be going down right now. You can see right there is no flip.
Perfect shot. Let's see if she can put it together on the left-hand lane, but you can see the conditioner now moving down a little bit and setting up a little hold area for the professionals, and that's all they need.
It's only a couple boards, and it seems like the world to a professional.
The toughest thing in the world, I guess, though, Karen, is there you see the smile from Jeannie saying, I knew I could throw a double, is that you just have to get by the first 3 or 4 frames clean until you can get yourself a double and get relaxed.
Well, Jeannie Maiden has had a lot of problems in doing that. She's come out with the big splits. Now, maybe she goes through the nose those couple times and don't leave the split. She can walk away with a spare and stay in it. But she didn't get the good break to trip out any of the pins.
And a Brooklyn shot, 9-pin left for Michelle Mullen, who started off with a double. And then an open, and then another double. It looked as if she would win this match easily. And now, as the conditioner carries down, it appears as if Michelle's fighting 15 and 16 a little bit.
Well, Denny, at this point right now, Jeannie Maiden can actually shoot 178 if she were to strike out in the 10th frame. Michelle Mullen, with an open in the 10th, would not, she would shoot 170, but it would not be 178, actually giving Jeannie Maiden a chance to win this match.
Well, she needs a mark to shut Jeannie out here. And if you'd have told me that at the midway point when Jeannie was trailing by 54, I would have snickered.
Well, bowling can turn around, and right now it really doesn't seem as either player is very comfortable. And Michelle has gotten a good break. She went through the nose for 9. She went Brooklyn for 9.
I think that's what you like to see, though, in a young player who realizes, hey, this is an opportunity to win the match and move on. And she threw an excellent shot there on lane 15.
And that was the match right there. So Jeannie Maiden actually has no chance, and she was still in there, though.
It's to be a frustrating week. You know, the hand has really been bothering her the last 3 or 4 weeks, and so she'll get an opportunity to give it a little bit of rest and get prepared for the Samstown National Pro-Am in Las Vegas.
After last week in DeSoto, she had thought about not bowling this week, but she just said, it's just too expensive for me to go home and come back again. I might as well stay on here. And she walks away with a nice 5th place check.
And plus, she has been bowling fairly well. And that's the toughest thing in the world. You get your rhythm, you get your game together, and you start to bowl well on the tour condition. If you take a week off sometimes, that can really confuse you when you come back.
She was very steady all week long during the qualifying in the match play section, staying right around the top 10, and she moved into the top 5 and held her position the last day.
Well, that one was out the window, but it didn't make much difference as Michelle Mullen, with 3 doubles in the opening game, shoots 194, which is more than enough to move on.
And as the games progress, we should see the scores get better and better, because the carry down will go down, and it will actually make the lanes higher scoring and easier to bowl on. They won't get the drastic ball reaction.
This first game is almost like an instant replay for Jeannie Maiden, who lost in the opening game to Leila Wagner last week, and it was a fairly low-scoring affair in Game 1, and then the scores picked up as the telecast wore on.
And I think that was a great benefit to Leila. She was able to get loose during that first match because she really didn't have a lot of competition throughout the match. It's easier to get lined up, concentrate on your game, not worry about, hey, am I going to win this match? What do I have to do? Maybe this will be a benefit to Michelle Mullen.
So for the 5th time in her illustrious career, Jeannie Maiden will finish 5th on the national tour. I'll tell you what, though, she is diligent, does not give up easily, very patient player.
Jeannie Maiden a workhorse, and she thinks that may be part of her hand problem. She practices probably as much or more than anyone out here on tour, and she has for the last 4 or 5 years really been a workhorse. Practices, works out, and actually the doctor said, hey, you just bowl a lot. It's breaking down the tissue in your fingers.
All right, so 194 to 156. Jeannie Maiden finishes 5th. Michelle Mullen moves on, and she'll take on Cheryl Daniels from Motown. That's right, Detroit, right after this. A furious finish for Wendy McPherson this week. Started 13th heading into the final round and nearly got to the telecast. Renee Fleming, number 7. And, of course, Pat Costello, out of the kindness of Dave Davis's heart, was given three weeks vacation time to come out here and play on the national tour, and she took advantage of it this week.
She sure did. Moving on down, we have Carol Giannotti, the Aussie, having another good week in 11th, and reliable Judy Sutar in 13th.
Denise Rathbun, number 14. Terry Bryce with an outstanding effort this week. She was very high up in the early go. Karen Ellingsworth, 20th this week. Partner, you got to move up a little bit there on the list. And
I faded the last day.
And, of course, you have a story to tell us about the player that finished 24th, your good friend Anne-Marie Pike.
Anne-Marie Pike getting to go into bowl out of the alternate spot in 24th. Getting married last week to Pat Dugan.
So now she's Anne-Marie Pike Dugan?
Yes, beginning next year.
Okay.
She's going to stay with Pike right at the moment.
All right. And so we're ready for the start of match number 2. Cheryl Daniels and Michelle Mullen. Cheryl Daniels opting to start the match on lane 15. 4 times already this year she has stepped into the winner's circle.
And she has done it by moving up through the ladder. She's done it the hard way.
Crosses over and gets the break early. Cheryl realizing that, well, she'll take what she can get. She has a very large following down here in the Houston area.
She always has. She has great crowd response every time we bowled in Houston. We've bowled in a couple different centers throughout the city in the years of the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour, and Cheryl Daniels has really been a crowd favorite.
She's also bowled very well in this part of Texas. Michelle Mullen with a shaker on lane 16, and she started the opening match with a double.
Michelle just doesn't let down. Michelle actually led the tournament in actual pin count. She had an awful match play record of 11 and 13. Very unusual for someone leading the field in pin count. She was just getting beat with good games, and she said it really gave her some determination. She said, hey, I know I'm rolling the ball well. I'm going to stick in there. I just can't win a match.
Doesn't happen very often when a professional has a losing match play record and they get to the championship round. Baby split this time left on lane 15, the 310.
Michelle had a 290 game this week, and it was at that point of the tournament that she said, that was it. That's when I knew I'm going to make it. I'm going to keep going.
Big year money-wise thus far for Michelle Mullen. Utilized that rookie season to kind of learn the ropes, and she's really taken advantage here in year number 2, and her second attempt at the baby split is a successful one.
No, she kept her ball speed up this time, and the ball didn't roll up right away. She got the ball across the lane, and you can see it's really skidding heavily right there, and it skids off the 3 into the 10. Cheryl's going to try to jump on this Brooklyn. Any professional knows when they get a Brooklyn, you've got to make it count by throwing another good shot right after it.
Trying to go straight up with the boards. Good speed, and X marks the spot as Cheryl Daniels starts with a double.
Look at right here. This is Cheryl Daniels' adjustment she made this week. She's actually opening her shoulders, facing them, closing her shoulders, and to the right. She says it allows her to keep the ball in a much smaller area. She doesn't have to project it as far to the right. You can see she actually is angled with her shoulders closed up to the right.
Well, she has not yet moved enough on lane 15. That one up and through the nose. And unlike Jeannie Maiden, Cheryl Daniels breaks up the split.
Again, struggling on lane 15 gave Jeannie Maiden the most problems. Seems as though the ball must be snapping just a little bit harder on the back end. Cheryl
Daniels now
switching to a harder ball to go across lane, as is Michelle Mullen.
Leads by 10 pins. Make that 8.
Michelle getting up, and this is the lane she's been able to hit.
Well, looked like she tugged it a little bit and ends up with the 4-pin.
She did tug that ball, but that ball definitely held a lot better than it's holding on lane 15. The carry down definitely looks like it's affecting lane 16 at this point, setting up that hold area in front, but it hasn't affected lane 15 as of yet.
Karen, did you find throughout qualifying and match play this week that the left-hand lane hooked more than the right throughout the house?
On this particular pair, I did find lane 15 did hook a tad more. Up towards the high end of the center, it was sometimes reversed the opposite way.
Well, this one, I think, has settled into one of those matches where it's going to take one big shot somewhere along the way to win it.
It looks like this could be a very tight match. Both players have good ball speed. Jeannie Maiden had the slowest ball speed of our 4 competitors today, and it may have hurt her during this early part with the back end snapping like this. She just couldn't get the ball to hold. Now the 4 players left have very firm, they're very strong players, and they should be able to get the ball to hold through the back end.
The velocity was there, ball hit a little light, and so it's back-to-back 4-pin leads for Michelle Mullen.
And you can tell Michelle is not the crowd favorite at this moment. They've really gotten behind Cheryl here all week, and I hope that doesn't play on her mind. She's a young player. She's got to just stay determined here. She's throwing the ball well. She's physically coming out of it very well. She's coming through the bottom very crisp at this point. She just needs to make the adjustments on the lane.
So it's a spare up in the 4th for Michelle Mullen, who trails by 10, and Cheryl Daniels is not only an outstanding player on the LPBT Tour. If she had her druthers, she might be giving Madonna a run for her money, as she's done a number of music videos. We'll take a little look here as we roll into commercial from Houston.
Maybe I'm too shy or something, but I won't let you get too close to me. But baby,
Time to look back in history. Last week's results. Should the lane conditioner be colorized to make it easier to read the lanes? 50% said yes, 43% no, and 7 didn't make any difference. So I guess we won't be seeing any colorized lane conditioner in the next year or so.
No, we'll just have a controversy over it for a couple of years and talk about it. And
I don't know. I think it ruins the lanes when you go from black and white to color. I don't know. The Wizard of Oz, it's all right, but come on, I don't know about this. Well, how'd you like the video, by the way? Is that the first you've seen of it?
That's the first time I saw of it.
Yeah.
I've heard Cheryl sing many times. She has a great voice.
Oh, she does. Yeah, that was fun. Maybe if she wins tonight, we'll get a little of that in the presentation.
I think we should.
Sure, I think we give it a try. I think there's a possibility we might get another sneak preview of that video as we finish up game number 1. She strikes in the 4th and looking for another double in the 5th. Going to need a break, and 3 shots on the left-hand lane, Karen Ellingsworth, and 3 times she hasn't come close.
I think we can now safely say that lane 15 is for sure hooking more than lane 16. They're having a problem adjusting to it. We haven't seen anybody go light. I mean, every ball has crossed in through the nose or has gone Brooklyn. Now, somebody needs to make the adjustment. They've got to move left. They've got to move their target to the left and pick up some more conditioner.
Obviously, she made an adjustment there, sent the ball a little further right, and there you see it doesn't quite get back to the pocket. So that's the problem presented right now on lane 15.
When they do get the ball to come back from the right, it usually comes back and hits weakly, leaving a weak 10 or even something weaker. There just isn't a lot of ball left after it comes back from the right.
Trying to get back on the beam and a 4-pin again. Getting a bit redundant for Michelle Mullen.
Michelle just threw that a little too firm and just didn't get the angle up to the pocket, but she had a chance to strike on that. The light hits have carried very well for Michelle all week, and I think that's the way she's trying to play it right now.
Trails by 11 here, midway through match number 2. Next in line, Lisa Wagner, our top seed this week from Vallejo, California, Nikki Gianulias. Match number 1 was already won by Michelle Mullen over Jeannie Maiden.
Michelle's starting to take a little extra time, and we have to say it does get hot under the lights. You've got to make sure you have a good feel of the ball, get your hand plenty dry before you go up to bowl.
And of course, Houston is the humidity capital of the world, It's going to be a little more difficult down here.
It is. I've noticed the humidity myself. I've heard other players talk about it. It just makes your hand perspire a little bit more, and you have to make sure you get it dry before you get up.
Well, better shot that time. Players are starting to make the adjustment on the left-hand lane, but this time instead of the 4-pin, it's the 10-pin.
She did make the adjustment, moving in a tad bit to the left. The ball caught a little more conditioner, but she left with the weak 10. It just didn't finish quite hard enough into the pocket. Again, switching to a harder surface ball, which will skid cross lane.
Boy, very solid performer, Michelle Mullen. You can see the wheels are turning upstairs. She's trying to figure out what she needs to do. Has yet to open in this match.
Cheryl Daniels, a very intimidating bowler on the lanes this year. She has changed her attitude. She came out, she says, I have a whole new attitude this year, and look what she's done. She has 4 titles. She's always had the talent.
Basic premise for, I think, Cheryl is she's relaxed a lot more, and also she's not letting the bad shots or the bad breaks affect the next shot.
No, and she's taking it one game at a time, one shot at a time. She's trying to make good shots. She's making the good adjustments when she needs to. Again, you can see how she has her right shoulder closed up like that, and then she comes through, and she keeps the ball in a very tight line with as many revolutions as she has. She has a nice, fluid, smooth style. She's always been pretty to watch.
So another X and a double for Cheryl Daniels in the 6th and the 7th, and we'll be back momentarily. But before we leave, take your time. That's the name of the video for Cheryl Daniels. And when we return for more action here at Fairlane Southway. Well, the video is called Take Your Time, and that's apparently what we did there. But I'd buy it. How about you?
I don't know. It looks pretty good. My first shot getting to see this.
I think it's hot. Yeah. Nothing worse than being embarrassed on national television, but certainly there could be another career in the making for Cheryl Daniels.
Well, with a voice like that, I don't think she has anything to be embarrassed about.
No way.
See Michelle Mullen, another great collegiate bowler, coming through the ranks and becoming a factor out on the Ladies Pro Bowlers Tour.
Good shot in the 7th, 5 consecutive 9 counts for Michelle Mullen, who was probably wondering, where have the strikes gone?
That has been a good shot for Michelle all week. She's been able to blow the 5-pin into the 7, that time not getting the break, not getting any pin to take it out. She was a little upset all week long. That had been a good percentage carry.
Key for Michelle right now, just to stay patient. She's in the match, trailing by 23, but within striking distance.
She sure is, but she needs to set herself up here for the final frames. She's going to have to throw some strikes at the end to win this game. Cheryl looking very strong. She's made the adjustment on lane 15. She's been right around the pocket on lane 16.
225, the top score for Michelle Mullen if she strikes out from the 8th. Needs to apply a little pressure, I would think. Over the thumb hole, and once again the baby split. She left that in the 2nd frame on lane 15 and converted it.
Not happy with that execution right there. She has a very high roll. Rolls very close to the finger and thumb naturally. And that time she just didn't get out of it cleanly. The ball rolling up onto the thumb hole. We could hear it thumping down the lane. It went high through the nose.
And by a whisker, the 3-pin goes. So the game remains clean, but it may not be enough.
Not the way Cheryl Daniels is looking right now. She's looking as confident as she has on her other television appearances. The confidence is there. The game has always been there. It's if she can keep herself in the match mentally.
And another break. Cheryl waves off the split and leaves the 4-7.
She did get a good break, the ball not breaking too sharply through the nose, getting out the 10-pin and the 6, and she's only left with the 4-7.
Well, without question, she enjoys bowling in the Fairlanes events. She already won the Fairlanes Denver Classic earlier this year.
Lisa Wagner always had great success also in the Fairlanes events.
I think at one stage she won 3 in a row last year before losing a little earlier this year in a Fairlanes event. So it's a 23-pin lead as she heads now into the 9th frame, and she's ahead by 23, but it still doesn't appear as if Cheryl has this championship round pair dialed in.
Well, none of the players have really looked super comfortable, but Cheryl has looked strong. She's been fairly around the pocket. That shot, she just, on lane 16, she seemed to let up just a little bit. Pointed the ball a little bit too heavily towards the pocket.
Better speed on this shot. Good reaction and a swisher for the newest addition to the Columbia 300 staff, Cheryl Daniels.
Yeah, she just joined the Columbia 300 staff recently, and this is her first appearance as a staff member.
Nice acquisition.
Always nice.
Boy, she has really bloomed her career right now. I think pretty much just in front of her.
She definitely has a lot of years left. It was 9 years till Cheryl won her first title. She's won 4 this year.
Trying to make some kind of a comeback if at all possible, so a strike in the 9th would still set up a possible 2-13 game, and it's never over till it's over.
A 2-13 would cause Cheryl Daniels to mark with good count in the 10th frame. I would have to say this is a must strike for Michelle Mullen.
Has yet to strike on the left-hand lane in the championship game here.
And she won't do it there. She just never really made the adjustment to get into the pocket. She left the weak 10, and it seems as though she moved back out on that shot. She definitely had to move in a little bit further to the left to catch a little more of the oil, not take such a great angle up at the head pin.
Almost sensed as if that time she also went to a little more speed and even tried to fit the ball in. She knew it was going to hook, but she kind of tried to give it the old frozen rope shot, and it didn't quite hold the pocket. So it'll be too little too late this week for Michelle Mullen.
But again, she did lead the tournament in actual pin count. Excellent week. You have to be happy with that. She had a little trouble winning matches in match play, but a good performance.
So a game of 192 posted by Michelle Mullen here in match number 2.
We'll see Michelle Mullen again. She has really become a top player out here on tour and a threat every week.
She's over the $40,000 mark thus far on the season. A little more area and a nice reaction on the right-hand lane, as there you can see Cheryl realizing, these lanes might be opening up a little bit, and I'm going to need that to happen because Lisa Wagner is next on the list.
Well, if any player on tour can send the ball to the right and get it back, it's Cheryl Daniels. She's very strong, has a very strong wrist and good release. And she has really figured out the short oil condition. She has bowled great all year long.
Oh, wait a minute. Testing the waters, as you can see. Cheryl said, well, I figured I'd throw it out there just to see if it would hook back. And no. Bob Hanley couldn't have gotten that wood back, I don't
Area
think.
check.
Yep.
Sorry, Cheryl.
Is that what they call that, an area check?
Area check.
All right. So a 4th place finish for 25-year-old Michelle Mullen, who still is looking for that first LPBT title, and I have a feeling it's somewhere in the neighborhood. So a 203, make that 223 to 192 victory for Cheryl Daniels, who moves on now to game number 3 against the defending champion, Lisa Wagner. And after all the games bowled this week, let's take a look at the tournament stats. The size of the field, 94. The average to cash, 204.1. Average to make match play a little bit higher. And to get to the telecast, 213.
Good scoring week, all week long. Oh, we saw a lot of high games. Leanne Barrett with a 300. Michelle Mullen, 290. Wendy McPherson, 298. Some big scores.
Yeah, they were knocking them down here at Fairlane Southway in Houston, Texas last evening. And coming up on ESPN, it's PGA action, the Nabisco Championships of Golf. All 4 rounds will be covered. Of course, they'll be tape delayed starting Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Curtis Strange is the defending champion, and all of the top players on the PGA Tour will be down at Hilton Head, South Carolina, trying to figure out the links down there. Excellent PGA coverage. And here's a look at what Lisa Wagner and Nikki Gianulias will be vying for. Beautiful crystal trophy and also $7,000 in first place prize money. Just finishing up the practice shots here. Nikki Gianulias, one of the more deliberate players, finishing up. And we've got our television, or I should say telephone survey finished up here. 77% say yes, 23 no. Looks like short oil is the way to go.
I guess.
Of course, you're one of the 23%. Actually, it would have been 76% to 24% if you would have called in, Karen.
Well, Denny, I was a little busy up here, so I didn't get to run to the payphone and make my 300 calls, but...
Now, don't ask, well, would you like to ask me my opinion?
Right.
Okay.
What's your opinion?
I would say that it needs to be a little longer than it is. I don't know if you can go to the real long oil on the urethane conditions, but I certainly think that you need to cut down the amount of area that can be created at times. I think there are certain instances that present themselves where the scores are much too high, and you're really not rewarded for making good shots, just aggressive shots where the ball hooks a lot.
I agree. I think that ball speed has become a real key. I think it's the bigger players have really come into power on short oil with the good ball speed. Taller players help.
Well, 0 for the evening on lane. Well, that should be exactly the opposite. On lane 15, she's done all the striking. On 16, that's been the problem. Comes out of the gates and misses the head pin here. And does the pressure of the championship game have anything to do with that errant shot?
I think the break in between the games had something to do with that. She was off practicing on lane 14. You can see right here she's wiping her hand. She looks as though she may have gotten something a little slick in there. She is wiping it off. Lisa doesn't usually do things, and she's not real picky out there. She just has a great natural feel. And you can see the long span, Lisa Wagner. She has very long limbs, long arms, long legs. That's what helps her generate that great speed.
Trying for the 1-2-8, and she opens in the very first frame. And that could be the impetus that Nikki Gianulias has been waiting for. It's been a long time since Nikki G has won a title, since 1984. And from the top seed position, it's just been disaster throughout her career the last 3 or 4 years.
Well, I sort of hope that Nikki can get things on a roll, and it's nothing against Lisa, but Nikki has had a long dry spell, and she consistently makes the television shows only to get on and bowl one game. And she's a great player, and she is really way overdue.
Tries to start quickly, gets a wiggle out of the 4-pin.
That was a good opening shot. She's been off to the side now for over an hour. Come out. She usually has struggled when she's come out early in the game, only to get lined up a little too late. And that was a good opening shot.
Her 44th career appearance in the championship round.
And we have some dead wood in the gutter. We have to get that removed.
I'd do it, but I'm tied up at the moment.
I'm a little busy.
There we go.
I don't think my heels will make it down
The ever-alert mechanic in the back. Now the dead wood's been cleared away, and she'll shoot at the 4. Opening frame, championship game.
And Nikki is another player who does somewhat hook the ball at her spares. More, as I was saying during Cheryl Daniels' game, more and more players are going to a straighter or a real fudge shot at the 10-pin going across the lane. And there are still some players who choose to hook it, and they'll often switch to a harder ball to cut down the hook.
Well, I know in watching Robin Romeo throughout the year, she basically throws a backup ball at the 10-pin.
She has always been a great spare shooter, and she has perfected that backup fudge shot at the 10.
And the bucket is left on lane 15.
She knows that lane is hooking more. I think she didn't want to open up with the ball cutting through the nose, and she kind of went into that safe zone. And she did leave the 2, 4, 5, which 8, which is always a difficult spare to convert. You've got the chop ever present. You've got to make sure you cover the 8 in the back.
And gets a break on the crossover as she takes the bucket out in the second, and not the way they draw it up on the blackboard, but effective nonetheless.
Let's give breaks. Nikki 2. Lisa none. Lisa opened up right away with an open. That's a break. Nikki goes across the bucket, and she gets a good break on the spare.
And there we see the breakdown. All the strikes coming on left-hand lane. Now let's see if it flips around. Oh, my. Back to back. Oh, my goodness. Not the way that Lisa wanted to start the championship game.
Well, she's had her problems here on lane 16, but not this big a problem. She had been close in the pocket. She just gets this ball way inside of her target. It really had no chance. It was headed for the nose the whole way down. Cuts right through. Near impossible split.
Minimize your losses. Go for the count and head on to the third frame. This does not appear to be a high-scoring championship game, so if he comes up with a double here or there, she'll be right back in the thick of it.
She is lined up on lane 15. We have to remember she had a bad opening shot. I don't think we see that throughout. When you strike every ball but one, you just don't lose that. Elisa Wagner won't lose that kind of shot. I'm sure she'll come back right here with a good shot.
Well, by the head pin it goes. She leaves the washout. And Lisa is in the land of the lost right now.
She really seems to be pressing right now. She was real loose last game, and she is really pressed. The difference between last year and this year, last year Lisa was very loose, and the pressure of being reigning bowler of the year, first woman over $100,000, she's constantly with the media. It's got to press on your mind.
That's got to hurt, too. She takes the 2-pin out. And Nikki Gianulias working feverishly during Lisa's 2 frames at putting some tape in the thumb hole. Put 4 or 5 pieces of tape in there to try and tighten things up a little bit.
And Nikki uses a very thin electrical type tape, and she must have just felt as though the thumb hole was a tad bit loose. She wants to tighten it up, get the good feel, and tape is a very good thing for all bowlers at home to know. You can't always have the same size hand. It'll always go up and down, and you've got to adjust the feel with a couple pieces of tape back there.
Nikki G has struggled from the top seed position, but tonight she might just win this one by default.
I think she's sensing that she just needs to stay in her zone, stay safe. Don't make the big mistake. She's had a foul on television, which she talked about to me before. She says, you know, Karen, I don't even know what happened. She goes, I slipped so far, my foot was 4 inches over the line. But she said, those are the kind of weird things that are happening to me. And she says, I just try to bowl the best game I can. If I get there enough, I'm going to eventually win.
Lisa Wagner has left the lottery numbers thus far, the 128, the 467, the 2810. Looking for the double. Oh, 5-pin sliding just in front of the 7. That would have been a clutch double for Nikki G. She would have really jumped out to a lead.
The spare looks real good right now in this match.
Yeah, you're right.
She can just stay clean right here, and she still forces Lisa with all the pressure. Nikki just needs to stay clean right now.
Not to belabor the point, but this is her 22nd appearance in the championship round. And the other 21, she has come away without a win, so long overdue.
Nikki explained to me, she goes, well, what about your record in the #1 position? And she says, well, Karen, she goes, I've been there so many times that if you get there so many times, you're going to lose. If you're only there once or twice and you win both times, well, it's easier to have a good record, but the more times you get there, the easier it is to have a bad record. So she has a little different way of looking at it than some people.
Perfect strike for Lisa Wagner, and Lisa gives the hands up. I'm alive, I'm well. I know I'm in Houston, and I know I can throw a double.
Well, she's got to be thinking of the title match last year with Aleta Sill, because it was a classic match of no one really wanted to win. She can actually get herself into striking distance with a double.
Well, she could cut the lead to 21 at the halfway point. This used to be her good lane. That ball didn't touch the lane.
Well, she got a good break getting that ball to hold, because she did get that ball inside of her target. But the good ball speed again, getting the ball to hold and only leaving the 4-pin. But she's going to need more than spares to catch Nikki right now.
Trying to calm herself, get that heart rate back down. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, Lisa Wagner trying to get anything at all started here in the championship game to put some pressure on Nikki Gianulias.
And she sure does. In the final position round game last night, Nikki defeated Lisa to take over the #1 spot, which Lisa had held for quite some time throughout the tournament.
That 263 to 189 game is the position round game. She stormed into the top seed position and trying to finish it off here this evening. Hey, she really is rolling the ball just beautifully right now. Ball really coming off her hand nicely.
She's getting out of the ball very clean, very crisp, right through the explosion point. And she's getting a good rotation. And she's able to get a good angle on the pocket. Again, good ball speed, both of these players. Able to hold that direct line up at the pocket.
Double here would go a long way. Actually, a tough break for her in the fourth. She threw an excellent shot, and the 5-pin moved right in front of the 7.
Right here, she can really close the door on Lisa Wagner.
Plenty of room. This time she gets the shaker hit, and Nikki Gianulias bouncing off the approach. She dashed back to the bench that time as she realized, hey, that's the shot I needed.
She looks really confident. She's got to be saying, this is it, I got this one. She just can't let up.
Trying to come back, and as the great champions normally do, Lisa Wagner will not let this one go easily.
Oh, she won't, and that is why Nikki has to stay composed. Don't think you have the match won, because as soon as you start to think you've got it won, that's when things can happen. She's got to sit there and she's got to get herself composed. Just keep her attitude of, I play every game the same, every frame the same. Lisa needing this strike.
Oh, trips out the 4, and Lisa, I think, realized, well, got a little break there that time. That thumb went down in a hurry, and the ball was left.
She got a great break tripping the 4-pin off the wall. That's what that great hold and speed will do. It just gets a good deflection, and it's very easy to trip a 4.
Nikki Gianulias working on a double. Ray Racks here in the 7th. Gives us a moment to congratulate the newest inductees, and or I should say they will be inducted in Tampa. The WIBC Hall of Fame, Pam Buckner, Dorothy Wilkinson, and also Gert Fink, and the newest on the ABC side, outstanding player Jimmy Schroeder from the Buffalo, New York area. So congratulations to those 4 outstanding players.
Although it's still midway through the match, right now Lisa Wagner has a possible 2:15. Right now Nikki is going at a 2:06 pace. So this match is not over.
Oh, a beautiful shot for Nikki Gianulias. And you can see the confidence just blossoming in Nikki G.
You could see the strain on Lisa Wagner's face. She's making her job much more difficult. She's throwing the ball excellent right now. She goes through the ball, keeps the ball in a very straight line. She goes light, and she's just going to rip these pins out. She's making this pair look easy.
Powerful player, very consistent player, hard worker through the years.
This is the most emotion I've seen out of Nikki ever on television, by far. She's usually very composed, doesn't show a lot of emotion.
Trying to make it 4 in a row, and a little help from her friends finally leaves the 5-pin. Well, you can see she's disappointed there. She really wanted to just grab this one by the throat.
That one would have just about shut it up right there. But again, right now, Nikki's going at a 2:15 pace. Lisa Wagner, if she does strike out in the 8th, 9th, and 10th, can shoot 2:15. But she will have to strike in the 8th.
Well, a sigh of relief. Don't ask me why, but she nearly missed the 5-pin. Was that nerves or just bad judgment on the spare?
Well, she tried to go very direct. She didn't want the ball to get stuck out in that dead man zone and not come back. And it did tail off a little bit at the end, but she did convert.
There you see the edge that Lisa has held over Nikki Gianulias throughout their careers. Numbers could change a fraction here this evening. Wagner trying to charge back, and Lisa, if the truth be known right now, would probably have a couple of extra thoughts or words for that solid 10-pin that just stood. What a great shot that was.
That was a really good shot.
Whew.
The 6-pin just flying up and around the 10-pin. And that was a must strike right there.
Nikki Gianulias talking to Fran Wolf, trying to determine exactly what the score is. Backup ball style for the 10. A 41-pin lead. And while we've got a moment, I know that you've just opened up a brand new pro shop as well in the Fairlane Center.
Yes, John Taylor, the regional director, is here tonight as my landlord. And I love being associated with Fairlanes. They've been a great company in the bowling industry for a long time.
And where's it located?
Fairlanes Rolling Meadows, just outside of Chicago.
So if I need a ball drill, I'm supposed to stop in and see you.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll give you a good deal.
Thank you. By the head pin, 2-4-5, and Lisa Wagner sees the title hopes kind of moving away, and Nikki Gianulias savoring this moment. It's been a long, hard fight for her. Don't forget, coming up momentarily, Sports Center, Bill and Dan Patrick with all of the scores around the country. 2-4-5 is missed, and it's pretty much academic at this point anyway. Lisa Wagner going to finish second, and Nikki Gianulias is going to finally win herself an LPBT event.
This is it. She just has to make it down the lane for 2 more frames. And she's got herself a title. A well-deserved title. She's been long overdue. I'm sure this moment really means a lot to her, although she's so low-key.
That's when you know that things are going your way. And on the other side, of course, Lisa disappointed. But Nikki Gianulias, the winner here in Houston. The tears will be flowing. We'll be back with more right after these messages. Nikki Gianulias snaps a 5-year drought with a win here. Jairo Garcia to her right, a district manager of Fairlanes with a beautiful trophy, and to her left, John Taylor, the regional vice president of Fairlanes, with a $7,000 check. Don't forget, coming up next, live on Sports Center, an interview with Pete Rozelle concerning an updated version on the story of maybe perhaps a new commissioner in the National Football League. Once again, we'll say goodbye here from Fairlanes Southway in Houston, Texas. Nikki Gianulias is the brand new champion. The championship round finals of the $35,000 Lady Fairlanes Open is being brought to you by Fairlanes. Bowl at Fairlanes, you'll enjoy the experience. We guarantee it. By Wheaties, the natural goodness of 100% whole grain makes Wheaties the breakfast of champions. And by GMC Truck. It's not just a truck anymore.